Have you ever noticed how spray control feels like pure skill in one Counter-Strike and pure chaos in another? Here's the thing. People have argued about spray for 20 years, but spray actually changed more than once. I'm Dale, and in this video, we're breaking down how spray control evolved from 1.6 to CS2, why 1.6 spray became a skill badge, why Source made people lose their minds, why early CSGO felt random to so many players, and what CS2 really changed with subtick and the way shots feel. No fluff, just the timeline and the real reasons. Let's go! Let's start with the foundation. In Counter-Strike, spray wasn't added as a gimmick. It was a way to make automatic weapons powerful but demanding. If you just held mouse 1, the game punished you. If you controlled it, you won the duel. That's why spray became a real skill. It separated the player who only commits to the spray from the player who can actually steer the weapon. Recoil patterns, recovery time, first shot accuracy, random spread. Over time, that turned into the language of the game. And this is where the story gets interesting. Because every Counter-Strike era answered the same question differently. Do we prioritize consistency and mastery, or accessibility and speed? And spray control always sat right in the middle of that decision. On GGDrop, promo code SPRGG gives you an extra 11% on your top-up and a free wheel spin. You add funds, get bonus value on top, and an extra shot at a solid drop. Code is SPRGG. In 1.6, spray control felt almost like a sport. Weapons had clear recoil patterns. You could learn them, you could repeat them, and if you had that control, the skill gap was obvious. That's where the classic identity came from. You weren't just shooting, you were controlling. And here's the key. In 1.6, it rarely felt like the game was adding chaos on top of your input. There was spread, sure, but the control felt honest. At higher levels, spray became a real language. By the length of a burst, the rhythm, even the sound, you could read what was happening in a duel. That's why so many people still call 1.6 the benchmark. Spray wasn't just a mechanic, it was a badge of mastery. Then Source arrived, and the community split hard. For a lot of players, the feeling was simple. I'm doing the right thing, and the bullets still don't go where I expect. In Source, spray felt different. Different physics, different animations, different hit registration, and most importantly, a different recoil feel. Patterns existed, but control didn't feel as locked in as 1.6. You had more moments where you couldn't tell, did I mess up, or did the game just behave differently? And here's the key point. Source wasn't necessarily a worse game. It was a different game. But Counter-Strike already had a standard, and for most people, that standard was 1.6. So any change in spray feel wasn't seen as a design choice. It was seen as something being broken. And that's a big reason why Source never became the one for so many players. Then CSGO launched, and we got the second big shock. Because early CSGO felt even harsher than Source for a lot of players. It didn't feel like you were controlling the gun. It felt like you were negotiating with it. Spray felt looser. Spread felt stronger. And most importantly, players lost trust in gunplay. That's where the famous line came from. CSGO doesn't shoot. Not as a meme, as a real feeling. You'd commit to a spray, pull the mouse the way you know, and still the damage looked wrong. The timing felt off, and you were dead. And on top of that, early GO had a bunch of hidden factors most players couldn't fully see. Tick rate differences, interpolation, server-side quirks, hit registration, all of it stacked together into one result. The mechanics looked like Counter-Strike, but the feel was a different animal. Valve understood one thing fast. If players don't trust the gunplay, Counter-Strike doesn't work. This is where CSGO entered its most important phase. Valve started to tame the gunplay, not with one magical update, but through a series of changes over time. The goal was simple: bring trust back. Make players understand why they hit and why they missed. Spray became more readable, bursts felt more consistent, and the difference between I control my spray and I just hold mouse 1 became obvious again. At the same same time, an entire training culture exploded. Recoil maps, spray routines, daily repetition. And this is the era where CSGO became what people remember. A game where gunplay rewards discipline. Not because it's easy, because it's learnable and predictable, if you put in the work. And that's a huge reason CSGO stayed alive for so many years. Now we get to CS2. Valve introduced subtick, and the promise was simple. The game would record shots more precisely, not only on the tick, but inside the tick. On paper, that sounds great. In theory, it should make gunplay feel more fair, especially on default servers. But in practice, it's been controversial. Some players say hits feel cleaner, sprays feel more consistent in duels, and there's less of that feeling of dying between frames. But others feel the opposite. They do the same control they built in CSGO, and the timing between recoil, feedback, and hit registration doesn't match what they expect. It feels like the spray is yours, but the result sometimes isn't. And that's the key point. CS2 didn't just change numbers, it changed timing feel. So old CSGO habits don't always translate one-to-one. Sometimes you need shorter commitments, different burst discipline, more controlled engagements. That's why the spray debate came back. Not just because mechanics shifted, but because the feel of shooting shifted too. Now let's make it practical. In CS2, spray still matters, but it punishes autopilot harder. So first, spray control works, but commitment length matters more. Full sprays for no reason are basically a gift. Second, bursts are back in a big way. 3 to 5, maybe 7 bullets. Small reset. Back to accuracy. That gives you consistency where full spraying turns into risk. Third, you need to switch modes on purpose. There are ranges where spraying wins, and ranges where spraying gets you killed. Strong players don't prove they can spray. They choose the right tool for the fight. And last, if you want real improvement, don't only practice patterns on a wall. Practice control inside real movement. Strafe, stop, first bullet, short burst, reset, repeat. Because spray doesn't break on a wall. It breaks in motion, under pressure, and inside timing. That's where CS2 rewards discipline. So here's the real takeaway. Spray has changed a lot over the last 20 years. Engines changed, gun feel changed, server conditions changed, even Valve's design philosophy changed. But the core idea never changed. Spray control has always been a test of discipline, of control, of whether you can steer the weapon instead of just holding mouse 1. In 1.6, it was a culture. In Source, it was a war. In CSGO, it became a system. And in CS2, it became a debate again because the timing feel shifted. And here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter which version of CS you love the most. If you want to be truly better, you can't just know spray. You have to feel it and apply it at the right moments. I'm Dale. If you want, next episode, we can break down how first bullet accuracy evolved over the years. For now, that's it. Wishing you nothing but absolute banger games.